They say the dead find peace. But what if some never left? Not ghosts, not demons, shadows of the forgotten, flickers in the corner of your eye, figures that stand at the edge of the hallway and vanish when you turn. Across centuries and continents, people have reported encounters with something cold, silent, and always watching. A presence tied not to a place, but to a memory. Tragedy, betrayal, unfinished business, or rituals. This episode, we descend into the myths and mysteries of phantoms. Are they warnings, echoes, or something much more sinister? This is Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 3, The Lotus Files. File number 070. The Phantom. I'm your host, Michael. And I hope you're ready, listener, because you've just stepped into the shadows. What is a phantom exactly? A phantom is generally defined as a spectral figure or apparition, usually associated with the ghost of a deceased person, although it can also represent illusions, hallucinations, or mysterious entities tied to specific locations or events. Unlike a typical ghost, a phantom is often described as more elusive, eerie, or threatening, sometimes blending with concepts like wraiths, poltergeists, or harbingers of doom and death. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, early civilizations believed in spirits of the dead who could return to the living world, either to seek vengeance or deliver messages. These were often depicted as phantasmal or semi-visible beings. The word phantom comes from the Greek phantasma, meaning appearance or apparition. Phantoms were often seen as the souls of the unburied, condemned to wander restlessly. The Romans considered them malevolent, wandering spirits similar to phantoms, and they were believed to haunt homes and places of death, especially if funeral rites were denied. In ancient Europe, many legends told of phantom armies or riders, particularly before war or plague. The Wild Hunt and Black Dogs are classic examples, phantom figures that signal death or misfortune. The Christian church often framed phantoms as souls trapped in purgatory, or as demonic tricks meant to deceive the living. In Eastern traditions, such as China and Japan, ghosts, or yuri, often appear as white-robed, legless phantoms tied to emotional trauma or improper burial. Some are protective ancestors. Others are wrathful spirits who refuse to pass on. In Hindu myth, preta spirits are phantoms of those who died unnatural or violent deaths. They haunt places and families, needing rituals to be freed. Phantoms have made their way into folklore and urban legends, such as phantom hitchhikers. Tales of spectral passengers disappearing from cars have existed since the 1800s, especially near graveyards or old roads. The Phantom of the Opera, a classic literary representation of a tragic, ghostly figure tied to obsession and isolation. Phantom trains and ships. Stories such as ghost trains, subway phantoms, and ships like the Flying Dutchman persist in maritime and industrial folklore. Scientific and psychological interpretations, such as sleep paralysis. Many phantom experiences are linked to sleep paralysis, hallucinations, and trauma-related memory. Using infrasound, extremely low frequencies can cause unease, shadow perception, or a sense of being watched. These are often behind alleged phantom sightings. Historically, people who lost loved ones under tragic or unresolved circumstances often reported phantom sightings as part of the mourning process, as they struggled with the intense grief and guilt. In modern times in pulp culture, horror films suggest phantoms are portrayed as both vengeful spirits and misunderstood souls. From comics to superheroes to even our video games, they are often used as psychological horror or as enemies with illusion-based powers. In the paranormal field, phantoms are thought to be residual hauntings, spiritual echoes of a person or event, playing out repeatedly like an ancient recording. They may lack consciousness or interaction, unlike intelligent spirits or poltergeists. A phantom's presence is often described as cold, shadowy, sometimes fleeting, but almost always disturbing. Well, fellow gardeners, tonight's file is definitely disturbing. Tonight's file comes from the documentation of a classified audio file, the final confession of Lieutenant Commander Marcus D. Voss, found in a sealed black box audio log recovered from Naval Medical Bay, Cell 7, October 16th, 1984. And our phantom file begins. I wasn't supposed to file this. Not like this. But if you're hearing it, then you've already ignored protocol. I'm Lieutenant Commander Marcus Voss, NPRD, Naval Paranormal Response Division. We respond when the sea refuses to play by nature's rules. I know that sounds like a tagline from a movie, but it's 110% true. This report is about the Alabaster Star, a 300-foot luxury yacht turned floating mausoleum. We got the call on October 10th. Distress beacon. Coordinates set off of Catalina, a rich family charter that belonged to the Rothmels. Very old money coming from silicon and steel, some of the richest defense contractors in the world. Apparently, the bride was the youngest Rothmel daughter. She was beautiful and very popular, and her guest list was like a movie premiere, filled with celebrities, CEOs, senators, rock stars, everything glittering in glam. 75 people set sail that morning, basking in the sun, alcohol, dining, and entertainment that money can buy. Only 17 were alive when we got there, Unfortunately, none of them intact. At 0300 hours, we boarded. There was no wind, no sound, just the creaking of a ship that wasn't dead, but waiting. Blood was everywhere, but there wasn't a scratch on the hull. No signs of struggle, but the air was heavy and thick, like it remembered things it didn't want to say out loud. First thing I saw was the ballroom. There were shattered wine glasses, rose petals scattered everywhere. Thick salt water pooled across the floor, though the hole was sealed tight. That didn't make sense. There were two bodies hovered midair, literally suspended, as if they were being held up by invisible chains. I rubbed my eyes to make sure I'd see what I was seeing, but there were no cables and no tricks. Their mouths were pulled wide open, as if screaming, but they were silent. Next, we moved through the cabins, slowly at first, but with each horror that we discovered, we sped up the process. People drowned in their beds, but there was no water damage, no water system failure whatsoever. But their lungs were full. It didn't make sense. I even cut one of them open myself. And inside each one of them, barnacles had grown inside the esophagus. One body was curled in a closet, arms crossed like they'd been trying to pray when it happened. Her eyes had been peeled, like something wanted to look out from behind them. The sight still haunts me to this day. We had hoped things would be better on the upper deck, but sadly, they were worse. We found the groom's father, impaled on the radar mast, almost completely bloodless, and his eyes were gone, and pearls were left in his throat. His wedding ring had been embedded into his sternum, and his face, well, it had a frozen, wicked smile, where it didn't look natural, as if carved from a nightmare. The bride and groom were found in the master suite. They had been fused together, not just holding each other, merged. Bone to bone, finger to finger. Gold melted into their skin like it was always part of them. It was as beautiful as it was grotesque. There were no signs of heat, no chemical burns, just fusion. And on the wall, scrawled in brine and blood, were the words, "Love don't live here anymore." I interviewed what was left of the survivors. Those who could speak repeated the same phrase over and over, like a goddamn nursery rhyme. She walks the water in white. She walks the water in white. One bridesmaid grabbed me by the collar, shaking. She said she watched a woman in a soaked wedding dress step through the ballroom wall. She said seawater and mist followed, and that she had touched her Aunt Mary Ann on the cheek, and her lungs just burst inside her chest. No fingerprints, no bruises, just internal destruction, like drowning in silence. And this mysterious female phantom did it over and over throughout the ballroom. I wasn't able to get much more out of the survivors, except one thing. A name. Esther Valentine. I dug into the name and found that in 1872, an heiress was aboard her fancy yacht during her wedding that vanished during a storm off the same waters. There were only 2 survivors. Both claimed that Esther had walked into the sea after discovering her fiancé's betrayal during the ceremony. He had cheated on her with one of her sisters. It is said that it drove her mad, and that she smiled politely and she whispered, "I choose the ocean." Esther's body was never recovered. Since then, 7 ships have gone missing in this zone, most of them celebration vessels. Some had ties to descendants of those who'd wronged her. But all 7 ships were gone. Later, I went below deck to inspect the galley, and that's when I saw her for the first time. Not directly, but in a reflection. A stainless steel hanging pot dangled in front of me. It was cold and shiny, and she appeared in it without warning. Esther was tall, wet, with hollow eyes that didn't glow, but they looked and were filled with emotions, as if they remembered every wrong doing you had ever done in your life. Her gown, which at one time was probably beautiful, was now soaked in shadow and salt water. Her reflection was clear as day, but shadow-like, almost as if I squinted my eyes, I could see through her. And before I could say anything, she opened her mouth, but no words came out. I couldn't hear her. I felt her, like a pressure in my head. And she said, "Do you enjoy the dead? What lovely eyes you have." That was enough to chase me out of the galley forever. Finally, we tried to tow the ship 6 miles out. The industrial-grade tugboat that we had called in to help mysteriously exploded. There was no fire, no explosion residue. It was just gone. The 4 men operating it vaporized instantly. Back in the medical bay, I tried writing this up the standard way, pen to paper. I found it hard to keep my thoughts directed on the task at hand, because all I could see was Esther's face. Suddenly, the lights began to flicker. Coldness seeped in through the walls. I called to the captain, but there were no power failures. It didn't make sense. And that's when I turned and saw my own reflection in the mirror stop moving. It was as if someone had taken a Polaroid of me, and now it just stares and watches. I get the feeling that she's in the vents, she's in the mirrors, but she's not hunting anymore. I think she's decided. She's chosen her next victim. Last night, I found a wedding ring on my bedside table. It wasn't mine. It was Esther's. If you've listened this far, I don't expect you to believe any of this. Phantoms don't leave fingerprints or DNA. So all that's left is the eyewitness accounts. But I'm warning you, I hope you never sail into these waters ever again. No rescue missions, no vacations, nothing. But if you do, don't bring music, don't bring laughter. Definitely do not bring love. And never, ever say, "I do." Because she's still waiting. And I think tonight, Esther's coming for me. The recording cuts off at that point. And all that's left is the documentation for a missing persons report for Commander Marcus Voss. On a side note, my great uncle Sam scribbled on the report at the end of this one, saying he had never met Commander Voss, but his reputation preceded him. He was well liked, well informed, and very good at his job. And after everything my great uncle has seen or dealt with, he believed every word of the commanders. All right, gardeners, that's it for this episode. Please share this podcast if you believe in the unbelievable. Give this episode a like, or subscribe, or message me on any of the platforms that you listen to this episode on. I'm finally getting more comfortable with the feedback, and I love to hear other people's accounts. Phantoms, ghosts, monsters, they're all welcome. As always, I'm your host, Michael, and you've been listening to Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast, Season 3, The Lotus Files. I hope you come back next time when we dive into another crazy file. I think you'll enjoy it. For any of you Bigfoot or Sasquatch hunters, there's a little known variant of such cryptid, and we chase after the elusive Yowie. Remember, monsters are real, and the worst ones have broken hearts.